Hello and welcome to Good or Bad. So there's a movie out there that pits Jason Statham against a giant prehistoric shark. Count me in. The Meg was based on a series of books written by Steve Alton and was released in 2018 and directed by Untitled Chapter. Now I don't know how accurate this movie is to the book, so I'm going to skip the comparisons and just see this as a movie in its own right. The film follows Jason Statham, who plays a deep-sea rescue diver called Jonas Taylor. He gives up on this life when in the opening of the movie he is put in an impossible position. He and his team were rescuing the crew of a submarine at depths rarely attempted. But after getting the crew out, he witnesses the hull of the submarine collapsing, as something is crushing it from the outside. And this also means his fellow teammates are trapped, and he is forced to choose between saving the crew or risking everyone to save his friends. He decides that it is too risky and leaves them behind. And as cold as that may sound, we do see that this decision weighs heavily on him throughout this movie. Plus the fact that we see the entire submarine exploding seconds after they get clear of it, so even if they had have gone back for them, nobody would have made it out of there alive. The movie jumps forward 5 years where we see the sciencey research place that frankly we have seen in many other movies. Although this is definitely one of the prettiest underwater research facilities I have seen. And today is an important day, as they are about to put their scientific theory to the test. And their theory is that what everyone believes to be the bottom of the Mariana Trench is actually a layer of hydrogen sulfide. And beneath that layer is a new secret layer of the ocean that has never been explored. And as such is the way with these movies, Mr. Moneybags is present, as he wants to see what he has been paying for. And you know what? He's one of the most tolerable billionaires I have ever seen in a monster movie. Because usually they just get in the way and make the worst decision possible at every turn. He only makes that decision later on in the movie. And as you could probably guess, their theory about the floor of the trench was correct. And as you can also probably guess, this is where everything goes tits up. They pass through the layer of hydrogen sulfide and the Meg attacks. But the movie doesn't show the Meg yet, but the sub does get smashed around quite a bit and they lose communication. However, the life signs are still there. For now. So we have a bunch of people who are in need of rescuing, and apparently there is only one person alive who has that kind of experience. But he left that life behind, after being called crazy for saying something attacked the sub in the opening of the movie. That's a thought. If the Meg is trapped beneath that probably improbable but possibly scientifically feasible layer of hydrogen sulfide, what attacked the sub in the opening of the movie? I think the simple answer is another megalodon attacked. We do see it just for a moment as it gets caught in the explosion. Which means that megalodons were already in the open ocean, just very, very deep down, which I guess is where they prefer it. Even though when this one breaks out of the trench it repeatedly attacks the surface. They go to ask Jonas for help. He says no. They say, but it's your ex-wife trapped down there. So he says yes. There's always busy work to make the hero say yes, isn't there? Jonas arrives and we see the rivalry he has with the Doctor, who was actually one of the people Jonas saved in the opening of the movie, who called him a coward for leaving the others to die, and then called him crazy for claiming there was a giant sea creature that was attacking the sub.
We're in international waters, which means legally I can beat the ever-living shit out of you and get away with it.
So no hard feelings then. Don't you worry, they do resolve this quite quickly in the movie, to the point where it actually has no effect on the movie. And what went great lengths to resolving this was when Jonas saves the day and gets everyone barring one person away from the Meg. Jonas gets to deliver one hell of an I told you so. And this whole scene is pretty damn good. This is the first time we see the Meg properly, as it carries a giant squid away in its mouth. And all throughout the scenes in the trench, there's a lot of silent runningness. You know, when submarines go dark so the enemy can't detect them. There's probably a better name for it, but that's the one I'm going with. And they do this because the Meg is drawn to the lights, so they go dark to stay safe. Which leads to suspense! Kind of. There's a fair amount of creaks and bangs and concerned facial expressions, and people asking, is it still out there? And I always like this in a monster movie. However, while the suspenseful moments are present, they are very short-lived. Certainly no Jaws levels of suspense. I'm sorry, you review a movie about a shark, you're gonna mention Jaws eventually. Plus it says totally jawsome on the box. so I kind of had to mention it really. And yes, I was holding this the entire time. Not really, it was on the table over there. Don't really think that matters now. I just realised the discs were in there. Oops. But yes, they escape the Meg and everything is hunky-dory. Except for that. Yeah, that could be a problem. I'm off. Good luck. Yeah, when they escaped, a thermal vent got ruptured on the sub, meaning as they passed through the layer of cold science, they heated it up for a moment, giving just enough time for the Meg to get through. Now that there's a giant shark on the loose, they feel a tad responsible. So after we see the Meg kill a whale, it's time to hunt the damn thing. They follow distress signals from boats going down, and they do indeed find it. They have a plan to kill it. But the movie needs to pad things out a bit first.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. It's gonna take at least 20 minutes to rig the cage. And that thing will be gone in 2.
Why don't you just put a tracker on it? Did you guys ever watch Shark Week?
And so they follow the rich guy's advice, which sees Statham's character swimming out to the Meg, and he successfully tags the shark with the tracker. And then there's a little chase scene which ends with Jonas being yanked out of the water just in the nick of time. And then for some reason the Meg just gives up and doesn't chase the boat. Yeah, sounds believable. So their grand plan for killing the shark is to poison it, which means someone needs to get in the shark cage. Now they say that this shark cage is impenetrable, but just looking at it, you can see what's going to happen here.
That cage will not break. That's the problem! The cage is being swallowed!
Yeah, who saw that coming? Some heroics and close calls later, they poison the Meg and kill it. And they all live happily ever after. Yeah, there's another one. They retreat to safety using a handy little distraction called in from the rich guy.
You're welcome.
Which brings them back to the drawing board. Remember when I said that the rich guy in this film was unlike the rich guy in most monster movies, in that he doesn't constantly fuck everything up? Well, I also said that that remains true right up until one moment. And this is that moment. He tells them that he has called the authorities and let everyone know that a megalodon is on the loose. But thing is, he lied.
Every person that gets maimed or killed by that thing is a potential lawsuit.
Ah, see, I knew he'd do it. I knew he would use the L word. These rich people love using the threat of lawsuits to justify doing something dumb. And the dumb thing that he's gonna do is kill the Meg as quickly and as quietly as possible. Or should I say, try to do, because it doesn't actually work out for him. Okay, let's take a moment to talk about Mr. Morris. He is a rich guy in a monster movie. This was always going to happen. But did it need to? Because like I said earlier, usually the rich guy in a monster movie makes the worst decision possible at every point, leading to their eventual demise. But Mr. Morris here did not. He had good ideas, like tagging the shark with the GPS, both times. And on top of that, during the trench rescue scene, he did nothing. He didn't interfere, he didn't cost anyone their lives, he just stayed out of their way and let them get on with it. Do you know how rare that is? But on the flip side, he did want to capitalise on the discovery of the Meg in the trench once they had escaped. But hey, at least he was willing to invest time and money into preparing them for going back down. Although it would probably cost you more to get prepared than the payoff would eventually be, so it's a little short-sighted. So we get this mixed bag of sense and stupidity with Mr. Morris. Almost as if the writers were dancing around the trope of a rich guy in a monster movie. Right up until the moment where he mentions lawsuits and everything plays out like it always does. Now I don't know what the book did. Maybe it happened the same way, maybe it was better written. But the movie by itself felt like they could have done more with him. But anyway, let's continue. They realise that Mr. Morris has lied to them, and the authorities think they are pranking them when they try and warn them about the Meg. So in other words, they're on their own. And what follows is a nice little Jaws reference with Pippin the dog, named Pippet in Jaws, contrary to what past me believed. And what else? Ah yes, a gigantic beach attack. Which isn't gory at all because of that lovely age 12 rating. Yay! They decide enough is enough and use whale sound effects to lure it away from the beach and into their trap. And by trap, I mean they sit in the water in their little submarines and don't keep an eye out for the thing they are baiting.
Finally, we agree on something. Let's not make it a habit. So yeah, look out, get out of there!
Well, if they aim for it to go disastrously wrong, they can't be disappointed, right? Also, they have their ship above them, and for some reason they brought the child along with them. I haven't seen such irresponsibility since Chief Brody isolated his son away from a mass group of people, thus increasing the chance of a shark attacking his son. But hey, at least you can say it's following in the footsteps of the Master. It's the wrong footsteps, but at least it's following. But anyway, they give the Meg a little chase with those tiny subs, and their aim is to shoot it with missiles. And as you would expect, their plan does not work out, so they improvise. Jonas uses his damaged sub to cut up the shark. And as cool as the visuals are, the dialogue feels very forced.
Got you like that, please.
And you can't even make the argument that he only says it to let the audience in on his plan, because he explains his plan before he even charges his sub at the shark. Jonas finishes off the shark in the most badass way possible, by stabbing the shark in the eye while they are flying up into the air. That is just awesome! Then hundreds of sharks turn up to save the day. Did they set up this heavily used beach in shark-infested waters? So the rest of the movie is lovey-dovey, isn't life nice? The end. Or should I say, fin. Get it? Fin. Shark fin. Finished. The movie is very witty. To be fair, I've made worse jokes. So that was The Meg, and I wish it was less kid-friendly. I mean, the movie is about a giant prehistoric shark, and there is a tiny amount of blood in this movie. I'm guessing that Warner Brothers just wanted a family-friendly blockbuster hit, so they didn't want to rely on the adult moviegoers alone, so they just toned everything down. And it really shows, and there is no scene that shows it more than the beach attack. Quite a few people die here, yet we see nothing. Just some people getting thrown around and some destruction. Everything just feels tame, which is a perfect way to describe this movie. Tame. The only time we really see blood in this movie is sea creature blood, which I guess affects the age rating less. But outside of the family friendliness, how was the rest of this movie? Well, the cast were good. Statham especially was a great choice for the lead character. His action star acting really carries this movie in my opinion, and it fit in very well with the over-the-top style this movie was going for. And Mei Ling, the child character, she was actually really funny. Unlike a lot of other child characters, she doesn't get in the way of the movie or come off as annoying, which is always nice. And Shuya Sophie Kai did a great job playing her. And while I did say that the cast were good, it's the writing for the characters that stops the characters from going anything beyond decent. So now I will talk about the demise of said characters. They were completely meaningless and no death felt like it mattered. Because while these characters were fun, they are also bland and forgettable. As for the visuals, the effects are okay, but what I have to give this movie a ton of credit for is the set design. A lot of the scenes are downright beautiful, especially when we see the research base for the first time and what lies beneath the trench. Funnily enough, the least visually interesting part of this movie was the shark. I mean, it doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look that good either. It is just a big shark. Although, unless you're willing to go completely crazy, there's not really a lot you can do with that. Also, going back to the research base, I said it was really well designed earlier, and it was. But they had this giant shark in this movie which bit the window and then swam away and it never came back to the research base again. And I just want to know, why didn't they have it destroyed? It would have been so much fun to watch. Plus, if that had have been the end of the movie, they would have been able to logically explain why the child was present instead of just bringing the child along on a megalodon hunt. Which makes no sense at all. Now, I don't know whether it's because this happens in a later book and they were saving it for a sequel, but I think it would have been cool to see. And unfortunately, the movie has no musical identity, which is a shame, but then again, can you hope to compete on that front? So overall, I had a lot of fun with this movie. It's nothing special, but it's still fun. Sequel bait, ooh-ha! This movie leaves it wide open for sequels, given that there's a new ecosystem to explore. Also the fact that the movie confirms that there's other megalodons in the ocean besides what was in the trench. So there we have it, an enjoyably silly shark movie, which feels like a big budget B movie. You have been watching Good or Bad, and I'll see you next time. Also, Pippin the dog survives. All hail Pippin!